In this moment of holy reverence, we gather to embrace the eternal grace that surrounds us. A clandestine circle of powerful figures now finds itself under divine scrutiny for scheming to subjugate your mind, O Anointed One. Yet forces far beyond their reach have stood as your guardians since the beginning. A luminous energy pulses around you, so astonishingly profound that its brilliance eludes ordinary understanding and sends chills through anyone foolish enough to try and control you. Under the pressure of heavenly decree, those who schemed against you now feel the very ground trembling beneath their ambitions. Yet this awakening is only the overture to a grand orchestration that will redefine your understanding of fate and unveil the hidden blueprint of your existence. A concerted operation has been launched to siphon your life force and distort your view of the world. These experiences aren't mere chance encounters or stray hardships. They originate from a calculated intrusion by a circle that perceived your essence long before you even grasped its magnitude. They have been using what can only be called distraction spells, which are highly skilled psychological techniques intended to change your perspective and prevent you from realizing your full potential. Something important about your actual nature that they have frantically attempted to conceal is exposed by the extent of their operation against you in particular. The distant helicopter sounds, the sensation of being watched, and the knowledge that your every action is being tracked are not signs of paranoia, because it can see beyond the veils that people have spent decades refining. Your third eye has been active in ways that frighten some people. Their most sophisticated manipulation techniques target you because of your intuitive abilities, which enable you to see things that were intended to stay concealed. They realize that your waking puts their entire control system at risk. In fact, every effort to stifle your vision has made it stronger, giving it clarity that pierces their delusions like light through dark. Your energy has been methodically diverted to support something far bigger and more dangerous, while you've been coping with what appeared to be personal troubles, such as marital problems, financial difficulties, health problems, or professional failures. These people have been engaging in a type of energy harvesting that relies on maintaining certain people in spiritually disconnected, confused, and impoverished states. Your pain wasn't arbitrary. Rather, it was contrived to fuel their delusional kingdom. They have deliberately kept you in a state of financial destitution with each missed opportunity, unsuccessful business endeavor, and unforeseen expense that depleted your funds. These were deliberate attacks on your material foundation rather than random occurrences. They knew that keeping you in a state of financial desperation would make you prioritize survival over discovering your actual calling. Yellow heart if you feel the divine love. Now is the time to share. Click the Super Thank You button on YouTube to contribute $50 or more and help us spread God's blessings. What you do is being watched and serves as a seed, and in the future it will come back to you a millionfold. Through legal maneuvers, market crashes that coincidentally damaged your assets, and possibilities that suddenly vanished just before they materialized. The generational riches that should have been yours was methodically diverted. Over the course of lifetimes, the same powers who designated you as chosen have been constructing a case against your oppressors. Instead of causing your lasting subjugation, these expert operations have caused an enormous shift of wealth. Everything they created on your stolen power is collapsing, and the very energy they have been stealing from you is now booming back with interest. This reversal is occurring via quantum pathways that completely circumvent their conventional regulatory systems, rather than through regular channels. Every lie they taught you about your limitations, every false reality they imposed on your situation, and every illusion they conjured to cause you to question your own perception are all part of the distortion field they built around your life, and it is dissolving in real time. Like a house of cards in a hurricane, everything is collapsing. Even they are no longer able to deny what is happening because the truth is coming to light with such intensity. Cosmic forces that acknowledge no earthly authority are displacing their meticulously crafted story about your identity, your potential, and your fate. The relationships they set up around you are showing who they really are, The family member who stifled every ambitious dream, the friend who always seemed to know too much about your innermost thoughts, and the romantic partner who constantly betrayed your confidence. These were planned psychological processes, rather than haphazard personality conflicts. They put these people in your life with the express purpose of keeping an eye on your spiritual growth and undermining your advancement whenever you were too close to remembering your true self. Breaking off these ties is a liberation from a complex surveillance system, not a loss. You were never intended to be small, and they are no longer able to hide the evidence of your true nature. Your cosmic birthright was purposefully inverted to create the poverty awareness they attempted to instill in you. Access to information, power, and influence that transcends dimensions is more important than material plenty, though that is undoubtedly on the horizon. They were aware that their entire operation would be vulnerable to forces they are unable to control or negotiate with if you ever reconnected with your real vibration, if you ever recalled the agreements you made prior to incarnating. Their celebrity networks are incredibly sophisticated in terms of coordination and reach. These are not only entertainment personalities, rather, they are strategically placed influencers whose main job it is to mold public opinion and spot possible challenges to the status quo. They have essentially established a parallel society in which soul contracts are exchanged like stocks, children are utilized as money, and the pain of innocence provides the energy required to keep up their manufactured paradise. While the majority of humanity remained unwittingly participating, the tunnels beneath major cities, the private islands, and the privileged gatherings masquerading as charity events have all been operating in plain sight. However, human manipulation and divine law follow distinct timelines, and the point of confluence has come with terrible accuracy. Cosmic justice was constructing a case that includes numerous incarnations and dimensional frequencies, while they were focused on short-term control. Intelligences beyond their grasp have meticulously chronicled every instance of interference against you, every attempt to thwart your goal, and every attempt to steal your light. When you send $15, it may seem small, but like everything given in faith, it will be multiplied in heaven. They are currently facing a judgment that is more than just punishment. It is the unavoidable result of attempting to thwart a divine plan that was established before the universe was created. Their control system's technological components expose capabilities that aren't officially recognized, such as frequency weapons that target your nervous system, scalar wave transmissions that interfere with your sleep and meditation, and chemically modified food and water supplies that inhibit the function of your pineal glands. These are merely the outward manifestation of an activity that encompasses areas they cannot comprehend. They have been dealing with interdimensional beings that see humans as a resource to be exploited, employing technology that comes from non-human origins. They have been driven to escalate beyond safe operating limitations due to your resistance to these sophisticated approaches. It's not a metaphor. Your ancestry has genetic markers that connect you to prehistoric civilizations. These organizations have spent generations attempting to tamper with or harvest the actual code sequences found in your DNA. Your cellular memory has ancient information that contains technologies that have the potential to transform energy production, healing, and consciousness expansion. They have put in a great deal of effort to keep this knowledge dormant by suppressing your genetic potential through anything from electromagnetic interference to pharmaceutical interventions. The systems that underpin the protection that surrounds you go beyond our typical comprehension of causality. When they direct bad energy at you, it comes into contact with a field that not only blocks the attack, but also transforms it into energy that advances your spiritual development. Synchronistic interventions reroute the intended damage back to its source when they set up mishaps to hurt you. Ancestral guardians who have learned these skills throughout the millennium intervene to neutralize the threat and educate you when they use psychic warfare against your mind. More than just a humanitarian disaster, the children who have endured suffering in their systems are the future leaders of human consciousness who are being methodically traumatized to keep them from awakening. The systematic corrupting of innocent people trafficking networks, and ritual abuse all work to break young souls apart before they can realize their innate potential. Protecting children is not an act of random kindness. Rather, it is an acknowledgement of your responsibility to preserve humanity's capacity for evolution. Every youngster you have assisted, even in a roundabout way, has made the safety net surrounding you stronger. Government contracts are being canceled as whistleblowers emerge from within their own ranks. Insurance companies are refusing claims related to their staged disasters. Investment portfolios built on human suffering are evaporating as cosmic justice redirects those resources toward their intended recipients. And bank accounts are being frozen by authorities who suddenly have access to previously classified information, all of which appear to be impossible according to conventional economics. Since they were unaware of these routes, the proof proving their misdeeds is coming to light through avenues they never kept an eye on. Files they believed to be permanently protected are being decrypted by quantum computing networks that are beyond their technological capabilities. Activities that off-world intelligences thought were invisible are being recorded by satellite systems. Consciousness explorers, working from enlarged states of awareness they are unable to detect or stop, are mapping underground facilities that are thought to be impenetrable. Dove brother and sister, everything done in faith is returned in God's abundance. You can donate $100 using the Super Thank You button and be part of this divine call. If your roots are connected to Him, your fruit will be blessed, activating skills they never thought you could acquire, like telepathic connections that connect you to other awakening souls around the world, precognitive flashes that reveal planned operations before they are carried out, and remote viewing abilities that let you observe secret meetings, is your role as a catalyst for this transformation. The reason these gifts are available online is because their interference has compelled your consciousness to change beyond what is typical for humans. Your spiritual diamond was formed by the pressure they created. The media networks are finding that knowledge travels across awareness more quickly than their censoring algorithms can react, and they are frantically trying to control the narrative surrounding their exposure. Attempts to stifle some revelations are occurring at precisely the same time as technological malfunctions, staff uprisings, and financial crises at the publishing houses, social media platforms, and television networks that have supported their agenda for decades. Since they exist in realms of awareness that they have consistently denied, the truth is spreading through avenues they have never learned to keep an eye on. As compromised officials are exposed for their personal involvement in these networks, the political protection they have depended on for centuries is vanishing. Sources outside their capacity to retaliate are releasing the blackmail documents that kept lawmakers in line. Officials from the Justice Department who concealed their crimes are now learning that intelligence services working under covert authorization have been listening in on their personal communications. They never tried to comprehend the constitutional mechanisms that are rescinding the legal immunity they bought. Their collapse's spiritual aspects entail energies they have been attempting to restrain and control for ages. Cosmic rulers that transcend infernal hierarchies are recalling the demonic beings they call upon to carry out their bidding. Angelic interventions acting under divine authority are methodically destroying the energy signatures they rely on to sustain their power, because the source of their power has withdrawn approval for their continued existence. The protective rights that have hidden their operations are crumbling. Other selected souls can use your awakening as a beacon to help others rise from the control matrix. Humanity's inherent state is represented by the gifts that are emerging in your consciousness, such as healing powers that go beyond medical knowledge, technological intuitions that surpass formal education, and leadership qualities that inspire without manipulation. Every individual you impact, by expressing your genuine self, authentically becomes another node in a network of consciousness that their systems are unable to corrupt or penetrate once artificial boundaries are eliminated. As a result of the timeline convergence that is speeding up around your awakening, several reality streams are combining into one trajectory, making it hard to maintain control. The timeline where consciousness liberation takes place precisely as intended is replacing alternative histories in which they were successful in stifling human growth. Your personal enlightenment ensures that the window for their continuous rule permanently shuts, anchoring this desired reality for the entire species. Access to technologies that make their current systems outdated is one of the cosmic inheritances that are activating through your consciousness. These technologies include free energy sources that circumvent petroleum monopolies, healing modalities that do away with pharmaceutical dependence, communication methods that surpass surveillance networks, and transportation systems that disregard infrastructure controls. As your consciousness grows beyond the boundaries they've erected, all of this becomes accessible. The universe is reorganizing itself to support your mission, as evidenced by the numerous synchronicities that surround your daily experience. Doors that have been locked for years suddenly open at the perfect moment. Resources come through unexpected channels, just when you need them. People with the right information or skills enter your life, just when their contributions are needed. And seemingly insurmountable obstacles vanish the moment your consciousness fully commits to your path. Their attempts to keep control are making the judgment phase worse. Every new operation they try to perform against awakening souls backfires more severely. Every technology they use to suppress consciousness instead makes it worse, and every ritual they perform to bind cosmic forces only draws stronger interventions against them. They've gotten into a vicious cycle where their own behavior will inevitably lead to their demise. Through processes that get around every system they've tainted, your natural abundance will be restored. Unbeknownst to them, cryptocurrency networks are distributing wealth in accordance with cosmic algorithms that acknowledge genuine spiritual growth. Opportunities for investments are emerging outside of their conventional market manipulations. Support for creative endeavors that reflect your genuine self is coming from sources outside of their sphere of influence or ability to take revenge. Through channels they never learned to keep an eye on or manage, your material requirements are being satisfied. Despite their persistent opposition, the future they are frantically attempting to avoid is materializing through your consciousness. When you give $50, it is like the seed that falls on the fertile soil in Matthew 13. Not 1/40th will return to you, but perhaps 1/100th. The collective awakening of souls like you who refuse to accept their limitations is bringing about the golden age of human potential that they have been working for millennia to repress. The creative outpouring of beings who remember why they incarnated at this pivotal point in cosmic history is giving birth to this new world that they fear because it threatens their power. Energy transmissions that naturally flow from awakened consciousness, like yours, are healing the damaged youngsters. Minds that function outside of their educational conditioning are rediscovering the technology they have suppressed. Through systems that acknowledge the spiritual authority of people who serve the ultimate good of all beings, the abundance they have accumulated is being redistributed. Consciousness networks that exist outside of their capacity for monitoring or interfering are exposing the truth they have concealed. The way the medical establishment operates exposes layers of dishonesty that permeate every facet of healthcare delivery. The doctors who rejected symptoms that suggested spiritual awakening, the mysterious diagnoses that never quite made sense, and the drugs that seemed to make your condition worse rather than better. These were concerted attempts to pathologize your developing consciousness rather than medical ineptitude. They used the medical system as a weapon to diagnose psychic gifts as mental illnesses, administer drugs that inhibit pineal gland activity, and establish vicious cycles of dependency that deplete your critical energy and financial resources. Their control matrix uses the incorrect diagnosis they have tried to impose for a number of purposes. They try to persuade you that your gifts are symptoms that need to be treated rather than innate skills that need to be developed by classifying your heightened sensitivity as anxiety illnesses, your prophetic dreams as sleep disturbances, and your energy perceptive abilities as dissociation episodes. Their psychological profiles of you are intended to support heightened monitoring while framing any opposition to their control as proof of instability for treatment. Since genuine treatment deals with underlying causes rather than treating symptoms for financial gain, your healing powers pose a challenge to their entire medical pharmaceutical complex. Their materialist paradigm is unable to account for the spontaneous recoveries that take place around you, the way chronic diseases improve in others you care about, or the extraordinary fortitude you've shown in the face of their attempts to jeopardize your health. They demand that awareness be recognized as a basic force capable of molecularly reorganizing matter. Your early schooling was influenced by programming that aimed to restrict your thinking. The history they taught left out important details about human potential. The sciences they taught did not include consciousness in their equations, and the arts they encouraged directed artistic expression in the direction of their desired narratives. Ideologies that place authority outside of the individual, rather than acknowledging the divine intellect present in all sentient beings, were used to filter every subject. Glowing star, if you want to witness God's miracles, act now. Contribute $100 or more through Super Thank You on YouTube. Your offering is like a seed that comes back to you when planted. Let His light illuminate your steps. Every donation is an echo in His plan. Their compromised religious and spiritual institutions act as barriers to authentic mystical experiences. The teachers who advocated spiritual bypassing over the practical application of mystical principles, the priests who insisted on intermediary relationships with the divine, and the gurus who discouraged direct spiritual experience have all taken genuine spiritual principles and wrapped them in doctrines that emphasize external salvation rather than internal realization. Many of these were, whether intentionally or inadvertently, part of a plan to keep you from directly accessing cosmic intelligence. Despite their systematic interference with every conventional path for mystical development, the teachings that seem to be lacking crucial components, the spiritual communities where you never felt fully accepted, and the meditation techniques that somehow never felt quite right, your innate spiritual gifts have been growing. The systems that had been compromised to divert spiritual seekers from true empowerment were accurately identified by your intuition. Chemical warfare against the expansion of consciousness is represented by the pharmaceutical interventions they have promoted throughout your life, such as the endocrine disruptors in food packaging that disrupt hormonal balance, the aluminum adjuvants in medical treatments that penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and the fluoride in water supplies that calcifies pineal glands. These are intentional measures to stop the biological processes that sustain higher consciousness levels, not unintentional contaminations. The defensive systems working through your cellular structure are demonstrated by your body's amazing capacity to eliminate these drugs while maintaining clarity. The wisdom encoded in your DNA that recognizes threats to your spiritual development is responsible for your natural attraction to healing modalities that support rather than suppress your system, your instinctive resistance to unnecessary medical interventions, and your dietary intuitions that led you away from processed foods. Films that normalize violence and dysfunction, music that synchronizes brain waves to promote anxiety and depression, and news cycles that keep people in a state of helplessness and fear are just a few examples of how the entertainment industry's influence goes far beyond simple distraction to include sophisticated programming of the collective consciousness. All of this helps to produce mental landscapes in which their dominance appears inevitable and natural. Your aversion to popular entertainment programming is a result of your awareness picking up on frequencies that don't align with who you really are. The way some music drains your energy, your natural aversion to violent or demeaning content, and your preference for media that uplifts rather than deceives. These reactions show that, in spite of their efforts to suppress it, your spiritual immune system is operating as it should. The surveillance technologies that follow your actions use systems that most people are unaware of, such as location services that map patterns of conduct, social media algorithms that track emotional states, and smart devices that listen continuously. These produce psychological profiles that are used to forecast and impact your decisions. They have created increasingly complex manipulation techniques using the information they have gathered about your relationships, hobbies, and behavioral patterns. Your implicit awareness of risks that most people aren't aware of is reflected in the privacy safeguards you've instinctively put in place, the websites you've avoided in spite of peer pressure, and your digital habits that put security before convenience. Spaces of consciousness that are still outside of their monitoring capabilities have been safeguarded by your resistance to complete digital integration. The way your honest work has been undervalued, the creative ideas that were somehow already taken when you tried to develop them, the business opportunities that vanished just as they became viable. These economic systems they have created guarantee that true value creation is continuously undercompensated while parasitic activities generate excessive profits. These trends show how those whose success might jeopardize their power structures are routinely suppressed from achieving economic independence. Will you answer the call? That's the question, not if you were selected. The archons should be afraid of the decision you are about to make. More than merely personal success, your newfound financial riches is proof of cosmic justice reallocating resources in accordance with spiritual rather than material principles. Opportunities that arise through synchronistic rather than conventional channels, unexpected sources of support, and the way that barriers vanish when you align yourself with your true purpose are all examples of universal intelligence rearranging circumstances to further your goal. The ways that certain family members have consistently hampered your spiritual growth, the dysfunctional patterns that seem to recur despite everyone's best efforts, and the secrets that were never spoken but somehow affected every interaction are just a few examples of how generational manipulation has shaped your experience. These point to long-term efforts to taint the spiritual potential of your lineage. As you awaken, the healing that takes place in your family system has reverberations that go both forward and backward in time. Through your success, ancestors who were unable to achieve their spiritual goals are finding closure, and future generations are being liberated from habits that would have perpetuated the cycle of manipulation and limitation. A $40 contribution is like the North Star guiding a lost soul at sunset. Within their control matrix, the romantic relationships they arranged around you fulfilled a number of purposes. These relationships were intended to produce emotional dependencies that would sap your creative energy and keep you from cultivating the profound self-love required for spiritual sovereignty, going beyond basic monitoring and sabotage. The partners who at first appeared to be ideal but later displayed domineering or subversive behaviors weren't random relationship trends. Rather, they were intentionally chosen agents. In addition to shielding you from future infiltration, your developing capacity to distinguish genuine connection from deceptive mimicry also aids others in going through similar recognition processes. The isolation you felt while removing yourself from strained connections is giving way to gratitude for the privacy that for unhindered spiritual communication to blossom. The groups you are drawn to now are nodes in a global network of awakening consciousness. The synchronicity that grows when you follow your true impulses, the way that some places instantly feel like home, and the people you meet who have gone through similar awakening and manipulation experiences. Your alignment with cosmic currents that are altering human civilization is indicated by these. Up until recently, you were reluctant to share these gifts with the public, since you had a good sense of the risks of exposure before proper protection was in place. Your rise to prominence comes at the exact moment when their capacity to suppress or penalize truth-telling is undermined. Cosmic timing surpasses human strategic planning, as seen by the platforms that are opening up, the audiences who are prepared to hear your message, and the resources that are emerging to help you in your endeavors. Formal technical expertise is not necessary for your involvement in assisting these breakthroughs, because the information downloads straight into a consciousness that is in line with cosmic wisdom. Your natural role as a bridge between realms of knowledge is represented by the revelations that occur during extended states of consciousness, the solutions that come when you stop attempting to solve problems logically, and the inventions that look unattainable based on current understanding. The way that young people naturally reject their programming, the resistance movements that are beginning to emerge in educational institutions, and the creative expressions that circumvent narrative control systems are all examples of the genetic activations that will render manipulation techniques completely useless against future generations. All of this demonstrates how humanity has advanced beyond their sphere of influence. Beyond providing them with individualized care, you also protect them by setting anchoring frequencies that encourage the development of their natural talents. Each young person you have helped develop greater self-confidence and genuine expression becomes a node in the next generation's resistance to manipulation. Your affectionate demeanor gives kids a sense of what real care feels like, which reduces their vulnerability to manipulation and grooming. Consciousness that can perceive and interact with natural intelligence networks is necessary for the environmental restoration that will speed up as their industrial systems collapse. Examples of this include the way plants react to your presence, the odd behavior of nearby animals, and the weather patterns that appear to change in response to your emotional states. These phenomena show that you are becoming more adept at communicating with environmental systems that have been harmed but are unable to recover. The healing that comes from spending time in nature, the unexpected gardening triumphs, and the environmental cleanup that results from your intention rather than just physical action are all examples of how your connection to natural forces symbolizes humanity's re-establishing relationship with the living systems that sustain all life. These show awareness technology capable of bringing the world back into equilibrium in just one generation. The synchronistic connections with people you've never met in person, the way you learn about events before they're reported, and the collective insights that appear simultaneously in multiple locations are just a few examples of the communication networks that link awakening souls around the world. These networks operate through channels that are outside of their surveillance capabilities. These signify involvement in a worldwide awareness grid that their systems are unable to access or interfere with. You play a part in this network by both receiving and sending information that aids in the coordination of humanity's awakening process. The ideas that don't seem to come from your own head, the inclinations to share particular information at the ideal times, and the way your words inspire others to see things they needed to hear. These illustrate your role as a sentient cosmic intelligence relay point. Information about human capabilities that would challenge their control systems is routinely left out of the historical narratives they have propagated. Examples include the highly developed civilizations that predate recorded history, the people who have shown abilities throughout history that they declare impossible, and the technologies that were suppressed because they couldn't be monopolized. As consciousness grows beyond their training, all of this is being recalled and brought back to life. Your first-hand experience of human potential, which defies all they've taught about the boundaries of consciousness, is made possible by your access to ancestral memories. Genetic libraries that hold the entire record of human spiritual growth are the source of the knowledge that arises during deep meditation, the abilities that emerge without formal training, and the wisdom that seems age-old but instantly practical. Humanity's connection to beauty, truth, and inspiration will be restored by the artistic and cultural renaissance that will arise as their narrative control crumbles. Examples include the stories that want to be told through your voice, the visual imagery that suddenly becomes clear to you, and the way that some music moves you to tears for no apparent reason. These are cultural transmissions that will inspire greater human potential and aid in the healing of collective trauma. The way your genuine expression allows others to explore their own creativity, the healing that happens when people encounter truly inspiring art, and the social connections that form around shared aesthetic experiences are all examples of how your creative contributions act as counterbalances to the toxic cultural programming that has dominated mass consciousness for generations. These illustrate how beauty, not argument, is how consciousness evolution spreads. The last insight takes us right back to the beginning, that majestic aspect of your energy that inspires both fear and awe. Their realization that your strength originates from a source they are unable to access or control is what frightened them, not your power per se. Even in the midst of their fear, They are amazed by the indisputable beauty of consciousness expressing itself authentically and unhindered. No earthly force can stop this cosmic remembrance from finding its intended manifestation through your awakened existence. Your emergence symbolizes the return of divine wisdom to a world that has lost its source. The frequency through which divine justice functions in this realm is now the same as the exquisite energy that initially attracted their attention. What started out as an attempt to capture your light has turned into the impetus for their full disclosure and the release of every creature they have attempted to subjugate. The awe and fear they feel when they see you are a reflection of their realization that they are up against forces that are greater than any system they have put in place to keep control of consciousness. Elf,